Welcome to this podcast series, Queensland Women, Inspiring Stories from Environmental Champions, which helps showcase the important environmental protection and support work of a group of Queensland women who have made major contributions to this vital work across the Darling Downs and South East Queensland regions of the state. The series was produced for Householders Options to Protect the Environment, Hope Incorporated Australia, a community environmental education and capacity building organisation based in Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia. My name is Andrew Nicholson, producer of the series. This podcast project was produced in conjunction with the Queensland Women's Week 2023 event, and it supports the goals of the Investing in Queensland Women and Queensland Women's Strategy 2022 to 2027 initiatives, particularly as those initiatives aim to increase the empowerment and recognition of the achievements of women and girls in Queensland. Householders Options to Protect the Environment is delighted to produce this podcast series as a celebration and acknowledgement of the vital contributions that women of South East Queensland and the Darling Downs have made and are continuing to make toward helping conserve, protect and enhance our nature and natural systems in this place. In 2023, Hope Incorporated Australia believes that Queensland women and girls have still not been sufficiently recognised for their contributions to protecting our environment or for the integral part they have played in our environmental support history. We believe that without their tireless but often under-acknowledged efforts, many environmental and socio-ecological protections and reforms would not have achieved the level of impact they have today. We are producing Queensland Women, Inspiring Stories from Environmental Champions to help bring wider recognition to the work and stories of some of these inspirational women and the beneficial impacts their environmental advocacy, championing and leadership work has made across the southeast regions of Queensland in Australia. Women have worked tenaciously in these places to help develop and promote innovative environment support practices and to influence others in our communities to do the same. Women here have led by example, have been compassionate and collaborative and have remained tenacious in pursuing a vision that we can and must become much better environmental stewards of our natural and urban landscapes and waterways, our mountains and forests, coasts and oceans, and the precious wildlife that reside within those places. Women have often undertaken such work in the holistic and practical recognition that our human and community health, well-being and prosperity depend ultimately on the good health of the natural world and the physical environment around us. Our podcast guests share some of their successes and achievements and describe the struggles and hurdles they overcame in their individual missions to protect and enhance our environment. They work in such diverse areas as holistic management, regenerative agriculture, rural entrepreneurship, community capacity building, and community-resourced land care and catchment care projects, as well as wildlife rescue, rehabilitation and education. By producing these podcast interviews, Hope Incorporated Australia seeks to raise community awareness of the multiple benefits of having more women in crucial environmental action, decision-making and leadership positions. There is a continuing misconception in our society requiring ongoing challenge that success and meaningful leadership opportunities exist largely in the realms of a male-dominated corporate culture centred in large cities. That regressive mindset could be one of the many barriers to fuller female representation in leadership roles across Australia. Our guest stories help demonstrate that women can become leaders at any point in their lives. Each podcast guest interview is structured around variants of some core questions. How did you develop your interest in environmental advocacy and protection work? What are some of your environmental achievements and what are you most proud of? What are some of the challenges you faced in your career and how have you overcome them? What exciting new environmental projects are you working on? And do you have any advice, and particularly for women wanting to step up into conservation, wildlife protection or other environmental support roles? Each episode has time-elapsed markers for the main talking points to allow listeners to be selective in their attention if they wish. The URL-linked resources for each episode contained in the show notes may not display on all podcast platforms, but can always be accessed from the main Podbean host and distribution site. The first batch of 8 episodes of the Queensland Women Environmental Champions series are expected to appear from early June 2023 onward, and it is anticipated that further guest interviews will be added later in the year. We hope that the series will be promoted widely by listeners across their relevant networks in order to help maximise the audience for the series. Episodes should be available ultimately on a variety of platforms including Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Player FM and Apple Podcasts amongst others. Contact details for listener responses to the episodes in the series will be made available in the resource and reference show notes accompanying each episode. Listeners can of course give episode rating responses within some podcast apps, and for a more detailed level of response we ask that you consider completing the short 6-question survey we have devised for the series. A link to that survey can be accessed through the show notes for this introductory episode. My name is Andrew Nicholson, producer of the series, and thank you for listening.